Today on my channel, Planner Friends, last week I discussed why you need to set up faith goals. We have goals for everything. Let's set some goals in our faith. This week, I'm going to tell you how to do it while I decorate my prayer journal for the next 3 months. And I'm going to talk about how I came to this realization and what the change has done for me. So please stay tuned. Hello, planner friends, and welcome to my channel. I'm One Crafty Dolo, and I'm very happy you're here with me today. On Sundays on my channel, it's always about Jesus, faith studies, prayer journals, all faith, planner, and journal related. And I always have my good mug of tea. Today it's once again Earl Grey. Last week, I'll link the video below. I talked about why we need to have faith goals. I'd like to say I thought of this before I went into all my faith studies and so forth. I didn't, of course. But today what I want to do is take that a little further and talk about how to set faith goals for yourself. So I'm going to give you a blueprint for that today. If you're new, join my growing community. I try to foster a creative, positive place on the internet and on YouTube. If you're returning, thank you. I also appreciate your comments, your likes. That means more to me than you might think. So half the time when I come on here, I'm kind of winging it. I have an idea, a rough idea of what I want to do. So what I'm going to do today, just to show you before I start talking about the faith goals, I've been using the Erin Condren Petite Planner system as a prayer journal for this year. This base is what's helped me think about faith goals and how to reach them and so forth. So it's really a happy place. I love this planner. I'm debating if I want to spring for it next year because it's not inexpensive, shall we say. It's not the most expensive, but I've been so budget conscious. Well, we all have been. So this was the first few months in it. So this was April, May, and June, and I decorated it this way, and I really love how it turned out. And again, I kind of do some similar stuff all through here, right? So, but today we're going to work on the front piece that's the new one. And my current setup, which is almost done, I haven't changed these this year. I'm leaving it. I'm not going to change it. Jesus, prayer, and tea. So that's me. And this is what I did for these past few months. Not as much a fan of this one. It turned out to be more of a hodgepodge than I had thought about. So, you know what? Things happen. So today I want to get into the new one. I have some items. I have some inks over here, some stencils. I have stuff. So what we're going to do is decorate the interior here. And I'm going to tell you or teach you or share with you how to set goals in your faith. You have goals for everything in life, don't you? You have family goals. You have relationship goals, career, financial, education, even travel, all those things, right? Why don't you have faith goals? That's a question I asked myself. So let's get into setting our faith goals, friends. Alrighty, so this is the booklet for October, November, and December. And that is one of the things I've enjoyed about this system is that it's, you can keep decorating and changing it up a little bit. I really have enjoyed it. So what I've got here, let me just show you what I've got so far over here. I was thinking about what to put over here, and I pulled out a bunch of cards, different elements I have here. Let's pull these out. Okay. So I want to put something over here. Originally, I had looked at this, but I'd have to cut it down or put it sideways, which I could do. Maybe. We'll put that in the maybe column. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of these larger ones. Don't think I need them. All right. So I'm just going to decorate and talk about faith goals, but let's get going. So how do you set faith goals? What is a faith goal? can you have multiple faith goals, etc.? The answer, short answer, is yes, yes, yes. I started with a broad goal in 2023, the end of 2023. I really thought about what was lacking in my faith life. And I came to the conclusion that I needed work in my prayer life. I felt very stagnant. I felt like I wasn't praying the way I should be. And so that was something that I really needed to work on. So for 2024, I purchased this system. And what was my broader faith goal? Well, to improve my prayer life, right? And I needed to do that for me. I just did. I just felt kind of at a loss half the time that I wasn't doing enough. And yeah, that's exactly where I was. So you can have broad goals and then work them down into specific goals. You can have multiple faith goals for yourself, for your family, for your home, for, all kinds of reasons. But I would suggest that first and foremost, yes, absolutely, include your family, include your loved ones in your faith goals, absolutely. But in order to do that, you need to work on yourself first, because to bring them in, sure, that's part and parcel of our lives. But if you're not set on your goals yourself and where you are in your faith, well, that's going to be a problem, I think, in other areas in terms of getting into your family, right? And I think it's good to include them, and you will draw closer with your faith goals to God, to Jesus. But you also have to look at it too, that you are in the process of combating the world's influence. I have learned through all of my faith studies and my prayer journaling, all of it, that the world, the world is taking you in one direction, and it's the opposite of where God wants us to be. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into it right now. But understand something. As part of your faith goals, I think it's important to understand that you're running towards God, you're running towards Jesus, but you're also running away from the negative things in this world. I do think that's important. And so it's the push-pull, if you will. Okay. So before this video, I decided to do a little research. I'm a former professor, so I'm like seriously nerdy. And I always do research. And I was kind of lazy in my search, but I just did a Google search about faith goals. Excuse me. And one of the things a few things came up, okay? And it was just some blanket lists, and they were kind of interesting. I can't say I thought they were the best things I've ever read, but okay, fine. What I saw in those, it was simply a few things. One of the top one was gratitude, practice gratitude. Another one was go to church regularly. Another faith goal is daily prayer, okay? Another is reading books to deepen your faith, to bring you closer to God and to Jesus. Then, of course, reading your Bible. Let me think here a minute. Oh, memorizing scripture. That was a big one. Forgiving people. I think that was really a good one, right? Living with intent and purpose. I think that's pretty good. And seek God first, before going elsewhere, i.e. into the world. And what else was there? Trusting in God's timing. So I looked at these and I thought they were pretty good, actually. But how do you do that? And what I would say, all right, in terms of setting your own faith goals. Okay. As I said before, you can have faith goals for your family, over various people in your life. But first and foremost, let's start with ourselves, right? Where do you feel that your faith needs work? Where do you feel you might be a little bit lacking? So I'm going to talk about me. I already gave you the example of my feelings about my prayer life, right? That I was so stagnant. One of the more difficult things that I deal with is anxiety. And so anxiety has been a constant problem. And I needed a way to integrate my faith, integrate God daily, and fight back against anxiety without it becoming rote, memorization, etc., etc. So I sat down and I really thought, okay, I'm going to approach this as I approach many things. As a former, well, once an educator, always an educator, right? So what I decided to do, simply put, was I sat down and I thought to myself, okay, when I was teaching, I'm a historian. So when I was teaching freshman history, which I taught a lot, and they would come in and they would look at me like, oh my God, this is the most boring subject ever. Hello, we hate it. And I would be like, no, it's great. You need to do this. This is fun. And they would look at me like I was pretty crazy. I didn't care. That didn't bother me. But one of the things I learned as the more experienced I became was that I needed to flip the script. They saw history as a series of dates and numbers and places and blah, blah. It had no relevance to them and their lives. So in teaching, one of the things I did was to teach them differently about the American Revolution, say, right? Because they never really think of the fact it was fought on American soil. And they think of it as a sanitized version of what it really was. So I kind of would delve into that and talk to them and say, well, wait a minute, this is not what it was. Well, let's talk about doing that with your faith, right? Flip the script. First and foremost, focus on yourself, but then we need to see where you need help, identify the areas you feel weak in faith, and number 3, flip the script. You have to maybe get out of your comfort zone to create the relationship you want in your faith life. It's not always easy. In fact, it shouldn't be easy. So what do I mean by flip the script? Okay. What I'm saying to you simply is that if you're doing something the same way all the time, you have to change it. It's not working for some reason. So here's some ideas to help you grow in faith, but you need to take it in chunks, just like you would be in anything. You don't just automatically become financially independent. You don't automatically get to where you want in your career. It takes time. It takes thought, right? You have to plan this out. So here's how we do it. We come up with one goal, one manageable, attainable goal at a time. And I emphasize that in part because if you're like me, you think you can do everything at once and then you do it, but you kill yourself in the process. It's either that or maybe you don't do it and then you're frustrated with yourself. I don't want that to end up happening to you. So what I suggest is starting in a place where you're saying to yourself, okay, I can do this, but it's going to be on like my terms. How am I going to do this? Right? So you come up with one goal. For me, last year, it was improve my prayer life. That was the goal. I don't think I knew exactly what that looked like necessarily or what it meant, but it's something I knew I was really being called to do and to see in my own life. Okay. So then what you do is realize something. A goal, whether it's saving money, getting a degree, studying, a goal has to be built on habits. So in creating your goal, you need to think about what steps you can take, small steps, what habits you can integrate to make it to reach your goal. You following me, I hope? In other words, it's all still about planning things out, but doing so in a way that's, again, manageable, and you take it one chunk at a time. Okay. That to me is very important. That's the way I always did everything. And that's how I get to the places I feel I need to be. Alrighty. So, excuse me. For me, I'm going to just use my own example, was my prayer life it was just rote. Okay. I needed new prayers and I needed new ways of praying. I needed to get into make prayer time and make prayer space as a daily necessity in my life. Not always easy. You're running about and it's unfortunate, but I'm being honest with you. We need to give God more time. We don't. So how do you correct that? Right? So I needed to create new ways of praying. I had to find new ways to pray, to learn to do it every day, that it wasn't rote. I was praying daily, but it was the same thing, right? But what's at the root of that goal? Sometimes that's exactly what you need to do, is to peel back what's the root of what you're trying to do. I wanted to be closer to God and to better pray up my life and the people in my life. So to do that, obviously, flip the script. I wanted to better see God in my everyday life. And as I was saying earlier about the pushback, I needed to push back on anxiety and fear because I was having catastrophic thoughts. I was just not in a good place, right? And there's reasons for that. It makes sense given different things we went through, but it was just a lot. So I needed to figure out a way to do it. Well, in doing that, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's the beauty of this. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And what I mean by that is I decided to go ahead and use an app. I looked online and I'd been using the YouVersion Bible app. And so I decided that I would use the daily prayer in the YouVersion Bible app. There are other apps, but that was one of the things I decided to use. I needed help to recreate it. And what I didn't realize when I first decided to do this, being honest, I didn't realize, how do I want to say? I didn't realize that I was going to expand my definition of prayer. How's that? My way of praying was so limiting, and so now my prayers have really become quite expansive and in different ways than I might have anticipated. So what does that mean exactly? Okay. It means that my prayers include scriptures because this particular app gives you scriptures with it. It also includes, yes, I have my prayers, but now I've expanded. Sometimes I use their prompts. Sometimes I come up with my own. I also will quite often add in what I call my thoughts. So I add in a few thoughts into my prayers that are like, okay, what am I learning in this space? And I build upon the scriptures in developing my prayers. And what the scriptures do for me, simply put, is they push me along in the process and give me help as I'm trying to achieve these various prayer goals. Does that make sense to you? I'm hopeful that it does. And that is exactly what I needed, although I didn't know I needed it. So there's that aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that now, at present, my prayers include a lot of creativity. And decorating this space for my prayer journal is part of this process. I didn't know that I was doing faith studies. I'm in my third year, going to go into my fourth year of faith studies, right? In planners. Well, I didn't know that I needed to extend that I didn't know I could, or that I needed to extend that into my prayer life, if that makes sense. And so once I incorporated the creativity in here, I have visual challenges. Sorry. Sometimes this happens to me. I don't always get things straight. Anyway, do you see where I'm going with this? I needed to do this for me, but I needed to share it with others. I felt that was part of my personal calling. I have a chronic illness. I have scleroderma, which is an autoimmune disease. And so to talk about that's really hard for me. I'm doing advocacy work, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but it's not easy to discuss. And so part of my prayer journey is bolstering me up to do that. Okay. So it was about prayer. It's about prayer, but then it's also expanding prayer in my life and how I think about prayer. It's a way to turn away from all the bloody anxiety that can plague me and make me feel like, okay, I can do this. In the process of spending quiet time every day with God and Jesus, it stills me, right? Be still and know. Well, it stills me. And I need that for my daily life, because if not, then anxiety goes unchecked, and that's really hard. And I also need to know, and I've learned through these spaces, is that by praying it becomes, by working on myself, I'm expanding my prayer life for me and how I pray for my family. And that's really, really important, because you work on you, and then that from that flows joy and prayer and love towards your family through God. And you start to see that your fear, your anxiety, your worry, all the things that the world is throwing at you and that can keep you up at night, and you're just scrubbing along, as I like to say, all of a sudden you realize to yourself, wait a minute. As I go through my faith studies, as I go deeper in prayer, I'm realizing how many times God has saved me and been there. And as I was falling, he caught me. And this space helped me see that. So did I know that this space would do that? Absolutely not. So my goal of, okay, I need to redo my prayer life. I need to be closer to God. How am I going to do it? Starting with a dedicated daily space for it, suddenly is helping me through anxiety. Suddenly now helps me in terms of how I pray and how I interact with my family. So it's like a cascade or ripple effect. And that quiet time I spend, so basically, just to show you, I'll go through the Bible app, and they usually have 2 scriptures every day. Sometimes I write one here, sometimes I write one there. So if they're long, sometimes I write 2. Both are maybe short, so I put them over here. It depends. And then on whichever side I didn't use is the side that I put in prayers. Sometimes I put in thoughts. Sometimes I use a prompt. But it's always changing. And that's been incredibly good for me. That's what I meant about flip the script. I wouldn't have thought of that. What do you mean I'm including scripture in a prayer journal? It works. And just for an FYI, it's not just in terms of this. You may have something that you tried and then you didn't stick with it for whatever reason, and you kind of nagging at you, right? It's still there in the background. You can retry methods let me try this again. You can retry methods or things that you've used and maybe it just didn't, for whatever reason. You didn't finish it, or it didn't work, or, there's so many zillions of things to say here. But what I'm trying to say is that, let me get this straight. Well, that's as straight as we're going to get it. For example, though, I want to show you. I'd gotten through some of this book previously, The Women of the Bible Speak, and then I put the study down, and that bothered me. So this year I picked it up again, and boy, has it been great. Gosh, it's been one of the best things I've done for my faith life. And so find a book. You don't know what to do, maybe find a book. Find a place, find a space that you can use. I'm just debating here. And have another go at it. Why not? I mean, there's so much here that you can use, that you can be, that you can do. I would encourage you to do so. Yeah, that's to me, that's really important. So I just wanted to come on here and explain again how to do your goals very simply. Start with yourself, right? Break them down, start where you are. That's the most important thing. Find out the areas where you need help. Clearly with me, one of the areas was anxiety and worry and all of that. Then think about how you can flip the script, and you don't have to do it alone. You can go online, you can get books. That's what I'm saying to you. Do whatever is going to work for you in all these contexts, because that will strengthen you, and that will make you more of a prayer warrior or a faith warrior or so forth. And as the year has gone on and I've gotten deeper into my prayer journal, it's helped my other faith studies. Do I still struggle with anxiety? Yes, I'm not going to lie to you. Of course I do. Anxiety is a long-term issue that you don't just wave your hand and it goes away. That being said, however, I have to say, this has been a huge help to me. That daily act of sitting down with my little app and saying to myself, hey, I've got this, I can do this, has made all the difference in the world. And that's what I wanted to share with you. And because, okay, yeah, I'm chronically ill. Yeah, we all have problems and we're all doing so many different things. But what I wanted to say to you from my heart is that if you're struggling like I do at times, if you're in the trenches like I've been too many times, there's a way out. Start with where you need to grow your faith to strengthen yourself. Believe it or not, it works. And it works really incredibly well. And so this year has been really, so many blessings this year have come from this process. I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am in these spaces. All right, friends, I think I'm going to keep it simple. I like the fact that it's a combination of different elements, stickers, a little bit of stencils with inks, and a little bit of washi, strips, etc. I want you to be the best you can be for you. I want you to live with purpose and with joy. Get online, find an app. It doesn't have to be the YouVersion app. It can be, I think there's Hallow, there's other resources. Set your faith goals, chunk them down, work on yourself, and then watch the blessings flow to those around you. Thank you for being here. If I can pray for you, it would be my honor and my privilege. Drop it in the comments below. Have a blessed week, planner and faith friends. Bye now.